Hey everyone, this project's going to be a pretty quick blanket ladder that my wife asked for. And here I'm just taking some leftover stock from the walnut picture frame build and squaring it as it had a little bit of a bow in it. And now I'm just going to rip it in half. These two pieces will make the actual long rails of the ladder. I'm going to make sure I have 60 inches or 5 foot worth of length on them. I'm going to square up the ends. I clamped it off camera at the very back just to make sure that these two pieces would truly be flush and the same length. It's not exactly critical, but if you can, why not? Now I'm going to plane them to make sure they're the exact same width. I know these are the exact same thickness, or at least enough for our purposes because I had already planed them for the walnut build. Now I'm going to square up the ends of all these dowels. And I could have set up a stop block, but because I don't have a nice uh, miter station, it was actually easier just to use my MFT table and set up a flag, which is just a stop block. And I've clamped the rail pieces together, and I'm just going to figure out and mark where each of the rungs of this ladder are going to go. It took me a while to really nail that down. Now I'm taking a forstner bit and drilling a test hole to make sure that it's going to work with my dowels. And I marked center. And I did get a backer board here. This prevents blowout on the other side when drilling through. I realized I'd need a jig to drill this straight because it's kind of important. I went ahead and cut a relief, and then now I'm just going to cut a V-notch in the end of this board. And I used a speed square to mark 245s. And I'm going to realize that the drill bit's not long enough for that to work. So I'm going to go back over to the bandsaw and cut a relief real quick. And I do that 4 more times. Now I'm done with the last one. And I'm testing my dowels to make sure that they fit. Now I'm going to mark them. I'm actually going to do a wedged tenon on this. No glue, nails, screws, or otherwise for this project. But it's important to have a good reference. So I use my compass. I'm going to set it to 5/16, which is half the diameter, which is 5/8. And that gives me a nice straight reference line. What I do for the top side is I'll line up my two references. I'll cut those. Then what I'll do is put a piece of wedge tenon in there, or a wedge in there, to hold the two in the right orientation when I flip it over and cut the other side. Now it's time to place all the dowels. And here I am placing the wedges into the tenons. This is going to provide a friction fit, and I've got 2 ways of flushing these up. One's with a chisel, you can see that there, and then the other way to go at it is with a flush trim saw. Either way, when you're done, you're going to want to either sand or smooth out this surface. I opted to use my smoothing plane. I just enjoy that process, so that's what I grabbed. It would have been just as easy to grab my a small random orbital sander or even just the quick hand sanding for a project like this. Now I am taking very light passes. I probably could have increased the bite, but it ended ended up working out. I'm going to wipe the whole thing down with solvent, mineral oil, anything like that. Naphtha is going to work. Just want to remove any residue that could be on this on the wood from working with it or from it being stored. Then after this dries, we can apply just a hand-rubbed oil and wax mix. And I figured, knowing the audience of woodworking videos, that I'd better not show me applying this finish since it's applied by hand to the rungs. I might end up on some internet memes. So instead, I showed you just the application in that small area. And it really is, you rub it on, you wait 30-45 minutes, and then you buff it off. And I do have a little bit of a misalignment between the holes due to a slight angle causing some warp in this piece. I will say once we put the blankets on, it pulled that right out. But that's a great case for having a drill press. If our blankets weren't heavy enough, that would be an eyesore. Now I'm placing this with my two helpers. And got to return everything back the way I found it, otherwise I get in trouble. And there's a close-up of the wedge tenon. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.